The galaxy sprawled out before Connor Walsh, an endless sea of stars and nebulas, a spectacle he had witnessed countless times yet never tired of. Each mission brought new possibilities, new discoveries, and the thrill of the unknown. But this mission was different. As he navigated through the dark void, a subtle yet persistent feeling gnawed at the back of his mind, a sense that something awaited him, something beyond the ordinary call of duty. His spacecraft, the Horizon, was a state-of-the-art exploration vessel, equipped with the latest technology, designed to withstand the harshest conditions of space. Connor had always felt at home within its metallic confines, a place where he could escape the noise of humanity and lose himself in the vastness of the cosmos. Yet, as the ship glided smoothly through the blackness, all systems operating perfectly, the unease persisted. Approaching the uncharted sector, Captain the onboard AI, Lyra, announced in its calm, feminine voice. The screen before Connor displayed a series of coordinates, highlighting a region of space that was marked by the Interstellar Exploration Command as unexplored. No signals, no communications, just a vast expanse of emptiness, or so it seemed. "Take us in, Lyra. Let's see what we've got," Connor instructed, his voice steady, betraying none of the anxiety that simmered beneath the surface. As the ship surged forward, the stars began to shift, and the darkness of space seemed to grow even deeper. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered violently. Connor's hands flew to the controls, but before he could react, alarms blared, and the screens filled with red warning symbols. Massive energy spike detected. "Brace for impact." Lyra's voice, usually so composed, now carried a note of urgency. Connor's heart raced as the ship was caught in a powerful gravitational pull. He fought with the controls, trying to stabilize the vessel, but it was like wrestling with a force of nature. The ship hurtled through space, spinning out of control, while Connor struggled to regain command. The view outside the window was a blur of stars and darkness, until suddenly it wasn't. The ship burst through the blackness into an explosion of color. Below him, an impossibly beautiful planet loomed, its atmosphere glowing with vibrant hues of pink, purple, and gold. Massive oceans glittered under the alien sun, and lush, green landscapes stretched as far as the eye could see. It was as if he had stumbled upon a paradise in the middle of nowhere. "Lyra, engage emergency landing protocol," Connor barked, his voice barely audible over the roar of the ship's engines as it plummeted towards the planet's surface. "Engaging now. Prepare for crash landing." There was no time for fear, no time for doubt. Connor's training took over as he braced himself, the ship's hull groaning under the strain. The ground rushed up to meet them, and with a deafening crash, the Horizon tore through the dense canopy of trees before slamming into the earth with bone-jarring force. For a moment, everything was silent. Connor lay still, his body aching, the world around him spinning. Slowly, he opened his eyes. The cockpit was in shambles, the screens flickering, wires sparking. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal and singed electronics. But he was alive. He unbuckled his harness, every movement a struggle, and pulled himself to his feet. The ship was a wreck, but it had served its purpose, it had kept him alive. "Lyra, status report," he croaked, his voice rough from the impact. "Main systems offline. Hull integrity compromised. Life support stable. Communication systems non-functional." Connor cursed under his breath. Stranded on an alien planet with no way to call for help. It was every explorer's nightmare. But as he gazed out of the cracked window at the world beyond, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of awe. The landscape was unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering trees with iridescent leaves shimmered in the sunlight, their colors shifting like a living rainbow. Flowers of impossible shapes and sizes bloomed in every direction, their petals glowing with an inner light. The air was thick with the scent of alien blossoms, sweet and intoxicating. Connor's initial fear began to fade, replaced by a sense of wonder. Whatever this place was, it was beautiful, and he was alive. That was all that mattered, for now. He grabbed his emergency kit, checking for supplies, rations, water, a portable scanner, and a small sidearm. The essentials. Then, with a final look at the wreckage of the Horizon, he forced open the exit hatch and stepped outside. The moment his boots touched the ground, he felt a strange, almost electric sensation course through his body. The air was warm and filled with a faint, melodic hum, as if the planet itself was alive and breathing. He took a deep breath, and the rich, floral aroma filled his lungs, invigorating him. Cautiously, he began to explore his surroundings. The forest was dense, but not oppressive. The trees, though alien, exuded a sense of peace and tranquility. Creatures flitted through the branches, small, delicate things with wings that glittered like precious gems. They watched him curiously, their eyes bright and intelligent. Connor marveled at the sheer diversity of life around him. Every step revealed new wonders: glowing fungi that pulsed softly underfoot, streams of crystal-clear water that seemed to sing as they flowed, and birds with feathers like liquid metal that filled the air with their harmonious calls. He had crash-landed in a paradise. But as he ventured deeper into the forest, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled, and he found himself glancing over his shoulder more often than not. The sensation was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a presence, just out of sight. Hours passed as he made his way through the forest, his mind racing with questions. Where was he? What was this planet? And most importantly, who or what had brought him here? He crested a hill and stopped dead in his tracks. In the clearing below, he saw them. A group of women, unlike any he had ever seen, stood gathered around a shimmering pool of water. They were tall and graceful, their movements fluid and elegant, as if they were part of the very air itself. Their skin glowed with a soft, ethereal light, and their eyes were a kaleidoscope of colors, shifting and changing with their emotions. Each woman was uniquely beautiful, yet there was a common thread that connected them, a sense of harmony, of otherworldly grace that captivated him. Connor watched, entranced, as they laughed and talked among themselves, their voices melodic and soothing. They seemed completely at ease, unaware of his presence. It was as if they belonged to this world in a way that he could never understand. He wanted to approach them, to make contact, but something held him back. A deep, primal instinct warned him to be cautious. These were not ordinary women. There was something more, something hidden beneath their beauty and grace. Then, as if sensing his presence, one of the women looked up, her eyes locking onto his. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The forest around him faded, and all that existed was the connection between them. Her gaze was intense, probing yet not unkind. She smiled, a small, enigmatic smile that sent a shiver down his spine. The other women followed her gaze, turning to look at him. But instead of fear or surprise, there was only curiosity in their eyes, and something else: recognition. The woman who had first spotted him stepped forward, her movements so smooth they were almost unnatural. She was the most striking of them all, with long, silver hair that flowed down her back like a waterfall of light, and eyes that seemed to hold the entire spectrum of the rainbow. She approached him slowly, as if not to startle him, her expression calm and serene. "Welcome, traveler," she said in a voice that was soft yet filled with authority. "We have been expecting you." Connor's heart skipped a beat. Expecting him? How could they have known? Before he could respond, another woman stepped forward. She was smaller, more delicate, with hair the color of violets and eyes that sparkled with mischief. Her smile was warm and inviting, and she reached out to him, taking his hand in hers. The touch sent a jolt of warmth through his body, and he felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. "You must be tired after your journey," she said, her voice light and playful. "Come, let us help you." Connor felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, as if the very air around him was thick with some kind of energy. He wanted to ask questions, to understand what was happening, but the words wouldn't come. All he could do was nod, letting them guide him down the hill and into the clearing. As they led him to the edge of the pool, a third woman stepped forward. She was tall and strong, with hair like spun gold and eyes that shone with a deep, emerald green. There was something about her that reminded him of the earth itself, steady, nurturing, and powerful. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. "You are safe here," she said, her voice steady and reassuring. "We will take care of you." Connor felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. Despite the oddness of the situation, he couldn't help but feel that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The anxiety that had plagued him since the crash began to melt away, replaced by a deep sense of calm. The women, now standing in a circle around him, watched him with a mix of curiosity and affection. They seemed to understand his confusion, but they offered no explanations, only comfort. It was as if they knew that the answers would come in time, and that there was no need to rush. "Who are you?" Connor finally managed to ask, his voice barely a whisper. The first woman, the one with the silver hair, smiled gently. "We are the daughters of Elysium," she said simply. "And you, Connor Walsh, are our guest." Connor's heart skipped another beat. They knew his name. How was that possible? He opened his mouth to ask more, but the woman with violet hair, Violetta, as he would later learn, shushed him softly. "There will be time for questions later," she said, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "For now, just rest. You have been through much." And as the warmth of their presence surrounded him, Connor found that he couldn't argue. The weariness of the crash, the tension of the past hours, all caught up with him at once. His eyelids grew heavy, and despite the multitude of questions swirling in his mind, he felt himself slipping into a deep, dreamless sleep. As his consciousness faded, the last thing he saw was the soft, compassionate gaze of the woman with the emerald eyes, Emeralda. Her hand remained on his shoulder, a steadying presence in the sea of uncertainty. "You are home now," she whispered, her voice like a lullaby. "Welcome to Elysium." And with that, the world went dark. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the forest in shades of deep blue and purple. The air was cool, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers, and the melodic hum of the planet had softened to a gentle lullaby. The three women stood around the sleeping form of Connor Walsh, their expressions a mix of curiosity, concern, and something else, something unspoken. Azora, the one with silver hair, knelt beside him, her hand brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "He is strong, stronger than the others," she murmured, her voice thoughtful. "But will he be able to handle the truth?" Violetta, the violet-haired woman, twirled a strand of her hair around her finger, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "He will. I can feel it. He is different. He belongs here with us." Emeralda, the golden-haired woman, remained silent, her gaze steady and unreadable. She could sense the weight of what was to come, the challenges that lay ahead. But there was also a flicker of hope, a belief that this man, this Connor Walsh, might be the one they had been waiting for. Finally, she spoke, her voice calm and resolute. "We will guide him, we will protect him, and together we will see what fate has in store." As the night deepened, the three women retreated into the shadows, leaving Connor to rest under the watchful gaze of the stars. Tomorrow would bring answers, new challenges, and the beginning of a journey that none of them could have predicted. But for now, all was still, all was calm. And in the heart of Elysium, a new story was about to unfold. Connor awoke to the sound of birdsong, melodic, haunting and strangely familiar, though he knew he had never heard such calls before. His eyes fluttered open, and he found himself lying on a soft bed of moss, the canopy of trees above him filtering sunlight through their iridescent leaves. For a moment he lay still, trying to piece together the fragments of his memory. The crash. The forest. The women. He sat up quickly, the events of the previous day flooding back. His ship, the Horizon, was a wreck somewhere in this alien paradise. And then there were the women, the strange, beautiful women who had found him, tended to him, and who seemed to know him before he had even spoken a word. Connor's hand went instinctively to the side of his head, where he felt a lingering ache. Yet, as he touched his temple, the pain seemed to ebb away, replaced by a warmth that spread through his body, as if the very air around him was infused with some kind of healing energy. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but undeniably present. He rose to his feet, his muscles sore but functional. His surroundings were breathtaking, more so than he had realized in his half-conscious state the night before. The clearing where he had slept was ringed by towering trees with trunks that shimmered like silver, their branches heavy with blossoms that glowed with soft, bioluminescent light. A small stream, clear as crystal, wound its way through the forest, its waters singing as they flowed over smooth, pearlescent stones. For a moment he simply stood there, drinking in the beauty of the place. The air was cool and fragrant, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a paradise in the truest sense of the word. But paradise or not, he was stranded on an alien planet, and his ship was in pieces. He needed to figure out where he was, who these women were, and most importantly, how to get back home. Home, the word echoed in his mind, but for some reason it felt hollow. As he turned to search for the women who had found him, he noticed something strange. His belongings, his emergency kit, rations, even his sidearm were neatly arranged beside him, along with a small pile of fruits he didn't recognize. Each fruit was vibrant in color, some orange, some deep blue, and others a striking shade of purple, their skins smooth and glistening as if freshly washed. He picked up one of the fruits, turning it over in his hand. It was soft, yielding slightly under his fingers, and a sweet, citrus-like scent wafted from it. His stomach growled, reminding him that it had been nearly a day since he last ate. Tentatively, he brought the fruit to his lips and took a bite. The flavor exploded in his mouth, sweet and tangy with a hint of something floral. It was unlike anything he had tasted before, and yet it felt strangely comforting, as if it was meant for him. He quickly finished the fruit, feeling a surge of energy and well-being spread through his body as he did. As he was savoring the last bite, he heard a soft rustling behind him. He turned to see Azora, the silver-haired woman from the night before, standing at the edge of the clearing. She moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly, her feet barely disturbing the earth beneath her. "Good morning, Connor," she said, her voice as soothing as the melody of the birds. "I trust you slept well." Connor nodded, swallowing the last bit of fruit. "I did, thank you, but I have so many questions." Azora smiled, a look of understanding in her multicolored eyes. "And we will answer them in time. But first, walk with me. There is much to show you, and it is easier to understand when you see it for yourself." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded again. There was something about Azora that put him at ease, a calmness that belied the strangeness of the situation. She seemed to exude a sense of quiet authority, as if she were in tune with the very essence of the world around her. Azora turned and began to walk, and Connor followed. They moved through the forest in silence, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds. As they walked, Connor couldn't help but notice how the florist seemed to react to Azora's presence. Flowers turned towards her as she passed, their petals opening wider, and the trees seemed to lean in, as if drawn to her energy. After a time, the forest began to thin, and they emerged into a vast meadow. The sight took Connor's breath away. The grass was a deep, emerald green, interspersed with flowers of every color imaginable. In the distance, mountains rose, their peaks capped with snow that sparkled under the morning sun. The sky above was a riot of colors: pink, lavender, and gold, streaked with wisps of white clouds. But what caught his attention most was the structure in the center of the meadow. It was unlike any building he had ever seen, an elegant, spiraling tower that seemed to grow out of the ground like a living organism. The walls were made of a smooth, translucent material that shimmered in the sunlight, reflecting the colors of the sky. Vines and flowers climbed the walls, entwining with the structure as if they were a part of it. "What is this place?" Connor asked, unable to tear his eyes away from the tower. "This is the heart of Elysium," Azora replied, her voice filled with reverence. "It is where we live, where we commune with the planet, and where we draw our strength." Connor frowned. "Commune with the planet? What do you mean?" Azora turned to face him, her eyes gleaming with an inner light. "Elysium is more than just a planet, Connor. It is alive in a way that few other worlds are. It breathes, it feels, and it nurtures those who live in harmony with it. The tower you see is a conduit, a way for us to connect with the planet's life force. It is through this connection that we are able to live as we do, in harmony with all that surrounds us." Connor's mind raced, struggling to grasp the enormity of what she was saying. A planet that was alive? A life force that could be communed with? It sounded like something out of a myth or a fairy tale, not the cold, hard science he was used to. "That's incredible," he finally said, though the word felt inadequate. Azora smiled again, this time with a touch of amusement. "It is, but it is also a responsibility. Elysium is a paradise, but it is not without its challenges. The connection we share with the planet is both a blessing and a burden." "What do you mean?" Connor asked, his curiosity piqued. Azora's expression grew more serious. "There is something you must understand about us, Connor. We are not like you. We were born of this planet, shaped by its energies and its cycles. And those cycles affect us in ways that might seem unusual to you." Connor felt a chill run down his spine, a premonition of something profound and mysterious. "How so?" Azora looked at him, her gaze penetrating, as if she were searching his soul. "Elysium's energy is tied to the natural rhythms of life growth, decay, birth, and renewal. These cycles influence everything on the planet, including us. At certain times, the energy becomes more potent, more intense. During these periods, our emotions are heightened, our desires amplified. It is a time when we feel a deep, instinctual need to connect, to bond, to create life. Connor's mind flashed back to the previous night, to the way the women had looked at him, their eyes filled with something he couldn't quite place. Desire, yes, but there was something deeper, more primal. So you feel these cycles? They affect you, he asked, trying to wrap his head around the concept. Yes, Azora said simply. We are inextricably linked to the planet's energy. It is a part of us, as much as our bodies or our minds. And during these cycles, our connection to the planet and to each other grows stronger. Connor swallowed, the implications of her words beginning to sink in. And what happens during these cycles? Azora held his gaze, her expression unreadable. During these times, we seek comfort, companionship, and more. It is a natural response, one that is deeply ingrained in us. And now that you are here, you have become a part of this cycle as well. Connor felt his heart pound in his chest, a mixture of fear and anticipation. He had known on some level that there was something extraordinary about these women, something that went beyond their beauty and grace. But the reality was more complex, more intense than he could have imagined. What does that mean for me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Azora stepped closer, her presence both comforting and overwhelming. It means that you are no longer just an observer, Connor. You are a part of this world now, and its energies will affect you as they affect us. You may find yourself drawn to us, just as we are drawn to you. Connor's mind spun, trying to process everything. The idea of being drawn into a planetary cycle, of becoming a part of something so vast and primal, was both exhilarating and terrifying. He thought of his mission, of the life he had left behind on Earth, and of the wreckage of his ship lying somewhere in the forest. Was it possible to go back? And even if he could, did he want to? Before he could voice his concerns, Azora placed a hand on his chest, right over his heart. The touch was light, but it sent a jolt of energy through him, as if she had tapped into some hidden reservoir of power within him. Do not fear, Connor, she said softly. We are here to guide you, to help you understand. You are not alone in this. Connor looked into her eyes, and in that moment he felt something shift inside him. It was as if a door had opened, revealing a path that he had never seen before. A path that led into the heart of Elysium, into the mysteries of this planet and the women who inhabited it. And as he stood there, feeling the warmth of Azora's hand against his chest, he realized that he was no longer afraid. Instead, he felt a deep, growing curiosity, a desire to explore, to learn, to understand. The unknown, once terrifying, now beckoned him with a siren's call. I want to know more, he said finally, his voice steady. Azora smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. And you will. But first, there are others who wish to meet you. She turned and gestured towards the tower. As if on cue, the entrance to the structure began to open, the walls parting smoothly to reveal an interior that glowed with a soft, golden light. Connor could see figures moving inside, more women, all as beautiful and graceful as Azora, their eyes filled with curiosity and something more. Come, Azora said, taking his hand. Let us introduce you to the Sisters of Elysium. As she led him towards the tower, Connor felt a strange sense of destiny, as if his entire life had been leading up to this moment. He didn't know what awaited him inside, but he knew one thing for certain: his life had changed forever. The allure of Elysium was powerful, its mysteries deep and compelling, and as he crossed the threshold into the tower, he felt a surge of anticipation. The journey had just begun. The golden light inside the tower enveloped Connor like a warm embrace as he stepped over the threshold. The interior was as breathtaking as the exterior, a harmonious blend of nature and architecture, where walls seemed to breathe and the floor beneath his feet felt alive, pulsating gently in time with some invisible rhythm. The air was filled with the soft scent of jasmine and sandalwood, and a faint hum resonated through the space, a song that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. The women who had been inside the tower turned their attention to him as he entered. Each was as beautiful and unique as Azora, yet they shared a common aura of serenity and grace. Their eyes, shimmering with a myriad of colors, reflected curiosity, kindness, and something deeper in emotion that Connor couldn't quite place, but which stirred something primal within him. Azora released his hand and stepped forward, addressing the group with a calm authority that bespoke her role among them. "Sisters, this is Connor Walsh, the traveler who has come to us from beyond the stars," she said, her voice carrying an almost musical quality. "He is here not by chance, but by the will of Elysium itself. We must welcome him as one of our own and help him understand the path that lies before him." The women responded with smiles and nods, their gazes filled with warmth. Connor felt a wave of reassurance wash over him. Despite the strangeness of his situation, there was something undeniably comforting about being in their presence. It was as if they radiated a sense of belonging, a feeling that he had been searching for his entire life without even realizing it. One of the women stepped forward, her hair a deep shade of midnight blue, cascading down her back in waves that shimmered like the ocean at twilight. Her eyes, a vibrant teal, sparkled with mischief as she regarded Connor. "I am Lyra," she introduced herself with a playful smile. "I can see that you are a man of many questions, Connor. But fear not, for we are a patient lot. You'll have your answers in time." Connor returned her smile, feeling a little more at ease. "I appreciate that. This is all. A lot to take in." Another woman, this one with hair as red as flame and eyes like molten gold, joined them. She was taller than Lyra, her presence commanding yet gentle. "I am Callista," she said, her voice rich and warm. "You are not the first traveler to find their way to our world, Connor, but I sense that your journey will be different from those who came before. Elysium has chosen you for a reason." Connor felt a twinge of unease at her words. "Others have come here before me." Callista nodded solemnly. "Yes, but few have stayed. The pull of their former lives, the call of their homeworlds was too strong. But Elysium is not a place one leaves without leaving a part of oneself behind." Lyra chuckled softly. "You're scaring him, Callista. He's only just arrived. Give him some time to adjust." Callista smiled apologetically. "Forgive me, Connor. I didn't mean to unsettle you. It's just that we rarely have visitors from beyond our world, and when we do, it is always a significant event for us." Connor shook his head, trying to dispel the lingering discomfort. "No, it's okay. I just need to understand what's happening here, why I was brought to Elysium, and what my role is in all of this." Azora stepped back into the conversation, her gaze steady and reassuring. "You are here because Elysium called to you. This planet has a consciousness of its own, a will that guides those who are meant to be here. It sensed something within you, a potential, a strength that aligns with the cycles of this world. That is why you survived the crash. Why you were drawn to this place." Connor wanted to protest, to insist that his crash was nothing more than a mechanical failure, a stroke of bad luck in the vastness of space. But something deep inside him told him otherwise. There was a strange resonance between him and this planet, a connection that he couldn't explain but felt with every fiber of his being. "And what about you?" Connor asked, looking around at the women who surrounded him. "What is your connection to Elysium? Why are you the only ones here?" Emeralda, the golden-haired woman who had been so comforting the night before, stepped forward, her expression gentle. "We are the daughters of Elysium, born of this world and bound to it by its cycles. Long ago, our ancestors made a pact with the planet, a bond that ties us to its energy. We are its caretakers, its companions, and in return, it sustains us, grants us strength, beauty, and life." Connor considered her words, the gravity of them sinking in. These women weren't just inhabitants of Elysium, they were an integral part of it, connected to the very essence of the planet, in a way that was both wondrous and humbling. "And what about me?" he asked quietly. "What am I supposed to do here?" Azora placed a hand on his arm, her touch light but grounding. "That is for you to discover, Connor. But you are not alone. We will guide you, help you understand the cycles of Elysium, and your place within them." Lyra's mischievous grin returned. "And maybe along the way you'll learn to appreciate the finer things this world has to offer." Callista gave her a knowing look, but didn't chide her. Instead, she turned her gaze back to Connor, her eyes serious. "Elysium is a place of balance, of harmony. But it is also a place of powerful emotions, of deep connections. As you spend more time here, you will find yourself changing, adapting to the rhythms of this world. It will be a journey of self-discovery. One that will challenge you in ways you cannot yet imagine." Connor felt a weight settle in his chest, an anticipation of the unknown, mingled with a hint of fear. Yet, beneath it all, there was a sense of excitement, of an adventure unfolding before him that was unlike anything he had ever experienced. He nodded slowly, accepting the reality of his situation. I'm ready to learn, to understand. Whatever this planet has in store for me, I'll face it. Azora's smile was filled with warmth and approval. Good. Then let us begin. The days that followed were a whirlwind of discovery and learning for Connor. The women of Elysium, whom he came to know as the sisters of the planet, taught him about the cycles of the world, the ebb and flow of its energy, and the ways in which it influenced everything that lived there. He learned that Elysium was a planet of extremes, where the seasons were not marked by temperature or weather, but by the intensity of the planet's life force. During the harmonious season, the energy was calm, balanced, and the inhabitants lived in peaceful coexistence with the world around them. It was a time of reflection, of nurturing the land and each other. But during the passionate season, the energy of Elysium surged, becoming wild and intense. It was a time when emotions ran high, when desires were amplified, and the bonds between the sisters and now Connor became almost palpable. It was during these times that the planet's energy sought to renew itself, to create life, and the sisters were driven by an instinctual need to fulfill that cycle. Connor found himself fascinated by the intricacies of these cycles, by the way the planet's energy seemed to pulse through every living thing. He spent hours with Azora, discussing the history of the planet, the ancient pact made by their ancestors, and the mysteries that still surrounded Elysium. With Violeta, he explored the forests and meadows, learning about the flora and fauna that called Elysium home. She introduced him to the playful creatures that inhabited the trees, the luminescent flowers that bloomed only at night, and the secret places where the planet's energy was most concentrated. Her laughter was infectious, and her joy in sharing the wonders of her world with him made him feel more at home than he had in years. Emeralda taught him about the healing properties of the plants, how to harness the energy of the planet to soothe injuries, to calm the mind, and to strengthen the body. Her gentle guidance and nurturing spirit helped him adjust to the subtle changes he was beginning to feel within himself, an increased awareness of his surroundings, a sensitivity to the energies that flowed through the land. And then there was Callista, who took it upon herself to teach him about the deeper connection between the sisters and the planet. She showed him how to meditate, to open himself to the flow of energy that coursed through Elysium, and to find his own place within that flow. Her teachings were more intense, more challenging, but they also brought him a sense of peace and purpose that he hadn't known he was missing. As the days turned into weeks, Connor felt himself changing. The initial shock of his arrival had faded, replaced by a growing sense of belonging. The planet's rhythms became his own, and he found himself more in tune with the cycles of Elysium than he ever thought possible. But with this newfound connection came new challenges. The closer he grew to the sisters, the more he felt the pull of the passionate season, the deep, instinctual desire that was as much a part of the planet as the air he breathed. It was a force that was difficult to resist, a primal need that both intrigued and frightened him. The bonds he had formed with Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda deepened with each passing day. What had begun as simple companionship evolved into something more complex, more intense. He found himself drawn to them in ways that went beyond friendship, beyond mere attraction. It was as if the planet itself was urging him to connect, to bond, to become a part of the cycle that had governed their lives for generations. It was Violeta who first confronted him about his growing feelings. They were sitting by a stream one afternoon, the sun casting dappled shadows on the water. Violeta had been unusually quiet, her playful demeanor subdued, and Connor sensed that something was on her mind. "Connor," she began, her voice hesitant, "I've been thinking a lot about us. About the way things have changed since you arrived." Connor looked at her, his heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" Violeta sighed, her eyes reflecting the shifting colors of the stream. "I mean the way I feel when I'm with you. It's different from how I feel with my sisters. There's something more. And I think you feel it too." Connor was silent for a moment, trying to find the right words. He had known, on some level, that his feelings for Violeta and for the others were growing stronger, but hearing her speak them aloud brought them into sharp focus. "I do feel it," he admitted, his voice low. "It's like something is pulling us together. I don't know if it's the planet, or the energy, or just us, but it's there." Violeta nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "It's all of those things, I think. Elysium is a part of us, and we are a part of it. But that doesn't mean our feelings aren't real. They are. and they're only going to get stronger as the passionate season approaches. Connor felt a pang of anxiety at her words. What does that mean for us? For you, me, and the others? Violeta reached out and took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. It means that we have a choice. We can fight these feelings, resist the pull of the planet, and try to maintain some semblance of distance. Or we can embrace it. We can accept that this is our reality now and see where it takes us. Connor looked into her eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, the uncertainty that mirrored his own. But beneath it all, there was also a flicker of hope, of something beautiful waiting to be discovered if they were brave enough to reach for it. "And what do you want to do?" he asked quietly. Violeta squeezed his hand, her smile growing more confident. "I want to see where it takes us, Connor. I want to explore these feelings, to embrace the connection we share. And I think the others do too." Connor felt a warmth spread through his chest, a sense of rightness that he hadn't felt in a long time. He had spent so much of his life drifting, searching for something he couldn't name. But here, on this strange and beautiful planet, surrounded by these extraordinary women, he felt like he had finally found it. He nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Then let's see where it takes us." Violeta's smile was radiant, her eyes sparkling with the light of 1,000 stars. She leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to his cheek, a gesture that was both tender and full of promise. "We'll take it one step at a time," she whispered. "Together." The weeks that followed were a time of intense emotional growth for Connor. The bonds he had formed with Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda deepened, each relationship taking on its own unique dynamic. With Azora, he found a connection of the mind and spirit. They spent hours talking, discussing the history of Elysium, the mysteries of the universe, and the meaning of life itself. Azora's wisdom and calm demeanor grounded him, providing him with a sense of stability that he hadn't realized he needed. Their relationship was one of mutual respect and intellectual companionship, but there was also an undercurrent of something more, a deep, unspoken affection that grew stronger with each passing day. With Violeta, the connection was one of joy and laughter. She brought light into his life, showing him the beauty and wonder of Elysium in ways he had never imagined. Their time together was filled with playful banter, shared adventures, and moments of pure, unadulterated happiness. But beneath the surface there was also a simmering passion, a desire that was becoming harder to ignore as the passionate season approached. And with Emeralda, the bond was one of deep emotional intimacy. She was his confidante, the one he turned to when the weight of his situation became too much to bear. Emeralda had a way of understanding him, of seeing the parts of himself that he kept hidden from the world. Their connection was quiet, steady, and powerful, built on trust and a shared vulnerability that brought them closer than he had ever been with anyone before. As the passionate season drew near, Connor found himself standing at the precipice of something profound. The planet's energy was growing stronger, more intense, and with it, so too were the feelings that bound him to the Sisters of Elysium. The choice he faced was no longer one of mere survival, but of embracing the life that was being offered to him, a life that was as beautiful as it was unpredictable. One evening, as the sky turned shades of violet and gold, and the first stars began to twinkle above, Connor stood at the edge of the meadow, looking out over the landscape that had become his new home. The air was warm, filled with the scent of night-blooming flowers, and the hum of the planet's energy resonated through him, a steady, comforting rhythm. Azora approached him, her steps silent on the soft grass. She stood beside him, her presence calm and reassuring. "The passionate season is almost upon us," she said quietly, "the time when Elysium's energy reaches its peak, and when our bonds with the planet and with each other are at their strongest." Connor nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He had felt the change in the air, the way the energy seemed to vibrate with an almost electric intensity. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, a force that he wasn't sure he was ready to face. "Are you afraid?" Azora asked, her gaze searching his. Connor hesitated, then nodded. "A little. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what this will mean for us, for me." Azora smiled gently. "It's natural to be afraid of the unknown. But you are not alone in this, Connor. We are with you every step of the way. The passionate season is a time of great emotion, yes, but it is also a time of great beauty, of deep connection. It is a time to embrace the bonds we share, to let go of fear and open ourselves to the possibilities that await us." Connor looked into her eyes, seeing the truth of her words reflected there. The fear that had gripped him began to loosen its hold, replaced by a sense of anticipation, of readiness. "And what do you feel?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Azora's smile deepened, her eyes shimmering with a warmth that took his breath away. "I feel hope, Connor. Hope for what we can create together, what we can discover. The passionate season is not just about desire, it's about love, in all its forms. It's about finding the courage to open your heart, to trust in the bonds that have formed between us." Connor's chest tightened, his emotions swirling within him like a storm. He knew in that moment that he was ready to face whatever the passionate season would bring, ready to explore the connections he had forged, ready to embrace the life that Elysium was offering him. He reached out, taking Azora's hand in his. "I'm ready, Azora. Whatever comes, I'm ready to face it with you, with Violeta, with Emeralda." Azora's eyes softened, and she squeezed his hand gently. "Then let us walk this path together, Connor. Let us see where it leads." As they stood there, hand in hand, the first breeze of the passionate season swept across the meadow, carrying with it the scent of jasmine and the promise of something extraordinary. The stars above shone brighter, the sky alive with colors that danced and swirled in the twilight. And as the night deepened, Connor felt a sense of peace, of rightness, settle over him. Whatever the future held, he knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be on Elysium, with the sisters who had welcomed him into their world, ready to face the challenges and the joys that awaited them. Together. The passionate season arrived with a quiet intensity, transforming Elysium into a world of vibrant energy and heightened emotions. The air was charged with a subtle hum, a low-frequency resonance that seemed to seep into every living thing, infusing the planet with a sense of urgency and anticipation. The landscape, already breathtaking in its beauty, became even more alive. Colors deepened, flowers bloomed in profusion, and the very ground seemed to pulse with life. For Connor, the days leading up to the passionate season were a time of profound change. His decision to stay on Elysium had sealed his fate, binding him to the planet and to the sisters who had become his family. The portal, once a tantalizing escape back to his old life, was now a relic of the past, its power dormant, its secrets buried once more. There was no turning back, but for the first time in his life, Connor felt at peace with that. As the season began, Connor found himself at the center of an emotional storm. The bonds he had formed with Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda were no longer just friendships. They had deepened into something far more complex, a mix of love, desire, and spiritual connection that defied easy explanation. The passionate season amplified these feelings, bringing them to the surface in ways that were both exhilarating and overwhelming. The sisters were affected too. The energy of the planet coursed through them, heightening their emotions, their desires, and their need for connection. But unlike Connor, they had lived through many passionate seasons before, and they understood how to navigate the intensity of the experience. They guided him with patience and love, helping him to understand the rhythms of the season, the ebb and flow of the planet's energy, and how to channel it in ways that were harmonious rather than destructive. Together, they built a new life, one that was deeply connected to the cycles of Elysium and to each other. They spent their days exploring the planet, tending to the land, and learning more about the mysteries that still lingered in the world around them. And as the passionate season unfolded, their relationships deepened, evolving into something that was both intimate and enduring. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a deep, velvety blue, Connor sat with Azora on the edge of the tower, looking out over the landscape that had become their home. The air was warm, filled with the scent of night-blooming flowers, and the hum of the planet's energy was a gentle, soothing presence. Azora sat beside him, her silver hair catching the last rays of the setting sun, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. There was a calmness about her, a sense of serenity that had always drawn Connor to her. "How are you feeling?" she asked softly, her voice a balm to his restless mind. Connor took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the season settling over him. "It's intense," he admitted. "I've never felt anything like this before. It's like the planet is alive, and it's calling to me, pulling me in." Azora nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "Elysium is alive, Connor. The passionate season is the time when the planet's energy is at its peak, when the connection between all living things is strongest. It can be overwhelming, especially for someone who is new to it. But it is also a time of great beauty, of deep connection. Connor looked at her, his heart full. And what about us? What does this mean for us? Azora smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that sent a wave of warmth through him. It means that we are a part of this cycle, just as Elysium is a part of us. The bonds we share are not just of the mind or the body, they are of the spirit, woven into the very fabric of this world. The passionate season will test those bonds, but it will also strengthen them, deepen them. It is a time for us to embrace what we have, to let go of fear and doubt, and to trust in the connections we have built. Connor reached out and took her hand, his fingers lacing through hers. I want that, Azora. I want to build something real here with you, with Violeta, with Emeralda. I want to be a part of this world, truly a part of it. Azora's eyes softened, and she leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to his lips. The touch was light, almost tentative, but it carried with it a promise of love, of commitment, of a future that they would build together. As they sat there, wrapped in each other's embrace, the stars began to appear in the sky above them, twinkling like diamonds in the deep blue expanse. The night was quiet, peaceful, and the energy that had felt so overwhelming earlier in the day now seemed to settle into a steady, comforting rhythm. We are building something real, Connor, Azora whispered, her breath warm against his skin. And it's only the beginning. The days that followed were a blur of emotions, of moments both tender and passionate, as Connor and the sisters navigated the intensity of the passionate season together. They spent their time exploring the depths of their connections, learning more about each other, and finding ways to channel the energy of the planet in ways that were positive and life-affirming. With Violeta, the passionate season was a time of joy and playfulness. They would run through the meadows together, chasing each other through the fields of flowers, their laughter echoing through the air. Violeta's energy was infectious, her zest for life a constant source of inspiration for Connor. She showed him the beauty of the world around them, the small wonders that he might have otherwise overlooked, the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the delicate patterns on the wings of the insects that flitted by. But there was also a deeper side to Violeta, one that she revealed to Connor as the season. The passionate season was in full swing on Elysium, and the planet's energy pulsed with an intensity that Connor had never experienced before. The air was thick with the heady scent of blooming flowers, and the very ground seemed to vibrate with a low, humming rhythm that resonated deep within his chest. It was as if the entire world was alive with desire, every living thing attuned to the primal forces that were now in full play. The passionate season, as Connor had come to understand, was a time of heightened emotions, deep connections, and an almost overwhelming drive for physical and spiritual union. The women of Elysium, bound to the planet in ways that Connor was still only beginning to comprehend, were deeply affected by this season. The planet's energy coursed through them, amplifying their desires, their needs, and their longing for connection. Connor had spent much of this time with Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda, each of them guiding him through the complexities of the season, helping him to understand the rhythms of Elysium and the ways in which they were all connected. But as the season progressed, he began to notice a change in the behavior of some of the other women on the planet, women who, until now, had kept a respectful distance from him. One evening, as the sun was setting and the sky was painted in hues of pink and gold, Connor was approached by Violeta, a woman with deep blue hair and eyes that shimmered like the ocean at twilight. She had always been one of the more reserved among the sisters, often watching him from a distance with a quiet intensity that he had never quite understood. But tonight, there was something different in her gaze, something urgent, almost desperate. "Connor," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly as she stood before him. "I need your help." Connor frowned, concern immediately welling up inside him. "Of course, Violeta, what's wrong?" She looked down as if embarrassed, her hands twisting together nervously. "It's the passionate season. Some of us are struggling. The planet's energy is so strong this time, stronger than I've ever felt before. It's overwhelming. I thought I could handle it on my own, but..." Her voice trailed off, and Connor could see the tension in her body, the way she was holding herself tightly, as if she were trying to keep from falling apart. He took a step closer, his concern deepening. "Violeta, you don't have to go through this alone," he said gently. "If there's something I can do to help, just tell me." She looked up at him then, and he saw the raw emotion in her eyes, the need, the longing, the struggle she was facing to keep herself together. It's difficult to explain. The energy, it creates this. This heat inside us, it's not just physical, it's everywhere. In our minds, our hearts, our spirits. And it needs release. Connor's breath caught in his throat as he began to understand what she was asking. The passionate season wasn't just about heightened emotions, it was about the deep, primal needs that came with them. The women of Elysium were not just feeling this season, they were living it, their bodies and minds caught in the grip of a force they could not control. And you need my help too. To release it, he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Violeta nodded, her expression pained. Yes, I'm sorry, Connor, I wouldn't ask if I didn't need it, but I can't do this alone. And I'm not the only one. There are others who need you too. Connor's heart pounded in his chest as the full weight of her words hit him. He had always known that the passionate season was a time of deep connection, but he hadn't fully understood just how intense it could be, how deeply it could affect the women of Elysium. And now they were turning to him for help, not just as a friend, but as someone who could provide them with the release they so desperately needed. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Violeta, I want to help. But are you sure this is what you want, what you need? She nodded, her eyes pleading. Please, Connor. It's not just about want, it's about survival. The heat, it's too much. We need you. Okay, what do I have to do? Well, one evening, as the passionate season was drawing to a close, Connor, Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda gathered in the garden at the base of the tower. The air was warm, filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sky above was a deep indigo, dotted with stars. The planet's energy was still present, but it had settled into a gentle hum, a comforting presence that seemed to envelop them in its embrace. They sat together on a blanket spread out on the grass, a small feast of fruits and wine laid out before them. The mood was light, relaxed, a stark contrast to the intensity of the days that had come before. Connor felt a deep sense of contentment, a feeling that he was exactly where he was meant to be, surrounded by the people he cared about most. Violeta was the first to speak, her voice filled with warmth and affection. This has been a season to remember, she said, raising her glass in a toast. To us, to what we've built together, and to the future that lies ahead. The others raised their glasses, clinking them together in a gesture of unity and celebration. Connor smiled, his heart full. To us, he echoed, feeling the truth of the words deep in his soul. They drank together, the wine sweet and fragrant, the perfect complement to the warmth of the evening. As they ate, they talked and laughed, sharing stories and memories, the bonds between them growing stronger with each passing moment. After a while, as the night grew darker and the stars shone more brightly, Azora turned to Connor, her expression thoughtful. Connor, she began, her voice soft, there is something we need to discuss, something important. Connor set down his glass, his curiosity piqued. What is it? Azora glanced at Violeta and Emeralda, who both nodded in agreement. We've been talking, she continued, and we believe it's time to take the next step in our journey together. Connor frowned slightly, unsure of what she meant. What do you mean by the next step? Emeralda reached out and took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. We mean starting a family, Connor. The passionate season is a time of renewal, of creation, and we believe that it's time for us to build something lasting, something that will carry on the legacy of what we've created here. Connor's heart skipped a beat, the weight of her words settling over him like a warm blanket. He had known on some level that this moment would come, that the bonds they had formed would eventually lead to something more. But hearing it spoken aloud brought a new sense of reality to the situation, a realization that the life they had built together was about to evolve into something even more profound. A family, he repeated softly, the word carrying a sense of awe and wonder. Violeta leaned in, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Yes, a family, a new generation born of the love and connection we share. Elysium has given us so much, and it's time for us to give something back, to create new life, to nurture it, and to help it grow. Connor felt a surge of emotion, love, hope, and a deep sense of responsibility. The idea of starting a family, of bringing new life into the world, was both exhilarating and daunting. But as he looked at the three women before him, the women who had become his family in every way that mattered, he knew that he was ready for this next step. He smiled, his heart full to bursting. I would be honored to start a family with you, with all of you. This is our home, and I can't imagine a more perfect place to build a future together. Azora's eyes shone with unshed tears, and she leaned in to kiss him, a kiss that was filled with love, with promise, with the future that lay before them. Violeta and Emeralda joined them, the four of them coming together in a circle of unity, of love, of commitment to the life they were about to create. Over the weeks that followed, the seeds of their new life began to take root. The passionate season had left its mark on all of them, deepening their connections and strengthening their resolve to build something lasting on Elysium. The bonds between Connor, Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda had evolved into something unbreakable, a foundation upon which they would build their future. The first signs of new life appeared slowly, subtly, as the planet responded to the love and care that had been poured into it. The gardens they had tended together began to flourish, the plants growing taller and more vibrant, their leaves shimmering with a soft, bioluminescent glow. The air was filled with the sound of new life, birds chirping in the trees, insects buzzing in the flowers, and the gentle rustle of the wind through the leaves. But the most profound change came from within. As the days turned into weeks, it became clear that the bonds they had formed during the passionate season had taken on a new dimension, one that would shape the course of their lives for years to come. One morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden light over the landscape, Connor awoke to find Azora standing by the window of their shared quarters, her hand resting gently on her abdomen. There was a soft smile on her lips, a look of contentment in her eyes that took his breath away. "Azora," he asked, his voice still heavy with sleep. She turned to him, her eyes shining with a love that was almost tangible. "Connor," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." Connor sat up, his heart pounding in his chest. "What is it?" Azora walked over to the bed and sat beside him, taking his hand in hers. "I'm carrying new life, Connor. We're going to be parents." For a moment the world seemed to stand still. Connor stared at her, his mind struggling to process the enormity of what she had just said, and then, as the truth of it sank in, a wave of joy, of love, of pure, unadulterated happiness washed over him. "Azora," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "we're going to be parents." She nodded, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Yes, Connor, a new life, born of the love we share, of the bond we've created here on Elysium." Connor pulled her into his arms, holding her close as tears of happiness streamed down his cheeks. "I can't believe it," he murmured. This is everything I've ever wanted." Azora smiled against his shoulder, her voice a soft whisper. "It's only the beginning, Connor. This is our future, our legacy. And it's one that we'll build together." As they sat there, wrapped in each other's embrace, the sun continued to rise, filling the room with a warm, golden light. The world outside was alive with the sounds of nature, the energy of the planet, a gentle, reassuring presence. And in that moment, Connor knew that his life had come full circle, that the journey that had begun with a crash on an alien planet had led him to this, a future filled with love, with family, with the promise of new beginnings. As the months passed, the life they had begun to build on Elysium continued to flourish. The garden grew lush and vibrant, a testament to the care and love that had been poured into it. The land responded to their efforts, producing an abundance of fruits, vegetables, and herbs that sustained them throughout the changing seasons. But it was the new life within Azora that brought the greatest joy. Her pregnancy was a time of wonder and anticipation as she and Connor prepared for the arrival of their child. The sisters were a constant source of support, offering wisdom and guidance, sharing in the excitement of what was to come. Violeta, with her boundless energy and enthusiasm, often spent hours with Azora, planning for the future, dreaming of the family they were building together. She would bring flowers from the meadow, weaving them into garlands and wreaths, decorating the tower with the vibrant colors of the season. Emeralda, with her deep connection to the planet, provided the healing touch that Azora needed during her pregnancy. She would sit with Azora for hours, her hands gently resting on her abdomen, channeling the soothing energy of Elysium into the new life that was growing within her. And Connor, ever the devoted partner, was there every step of the way, offering his love, his support, and his unwavering commitment to the family they were building together. He and Azora would spend long evenings together, talking about the future, dreaming of the life they would create for their child. They would walk through the garden, hand in hand, feeling the life of the planet all around them, knowing that they were a part of something much larger than themselves. The day of the birth arrived with the dawn of a new season, a season of renewal, of new beginnings. The air was warm, filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with white, fluffy clouds. The energy of the planet was a gentle, reassuring presence, a reminder of the life that was about to be brought into the world. The sisters gathered in the tower, surrounding Azora with love and support as she brought their child into the world. The birth was a time of joy and celebration, a testament to the bonds that had been formed during the passionate season, and to the life that they had chosen to build together on Elysium. When the child was born, a beautiful, healthy baby boy with eyes as blue as the Elysium sky, Connor felt a surge of love so powerful that it took his breath away. As he held his son for the first time, he felt a deep sense of peace, of fulfillment, of knowing that he had found his true purpose in life. They named the boy Orion after the constellation that had guided Connor through the stars, leading him to Elysium and to the family that had become his everything. And as Orion grew, he became a symbol of the life they had built together, a life filled with love, with connection, with the beauty of a world that was as much a part of them as they were of it. Years passed, and the life that Connor, Azora, Violetta, and Emeralda had built on Elysium continued to grow and evolve. Orion was joined by two sisters, Aurora, with her mother's silver hair and her father's sharp mind, and Terra, with Violetta's boundless energy and Emeralda's deep connection to the planet. The children grew up in a world of beauty and wonder, surrounded by the love of their parents and the nurturing energy of Elysium. They learned to walk in the garden, to swim in the crystal-clear streams, to climb the ancient trees that dotted the landscape. They were taught the ways of the planet, the rhythms of the seasons, the deep connection between all living things. And as they grew, they carried with them the legacy of the life that had been built on Elysium, a legacy of love, of connection, of a life lived in harmony with the world around them. Connor and the sisters watched with pride as their children thrived, knowing that they had created something truly special, a family that was bound not by blood, but by the love and commitment that had brought them together. The years passed in a blur of seasons, each one bringing new challenges, new joys, new discoveries. The garden flourished, the land prospered, and the bonds between Connor, Azora, Violetta, and Emeralda only grew stronger with time. They lived in harmony with Elysium, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of the planet, their hearts full of love for each other and for the family they had created. And as they watched their children grow, they knew that the future was bright, that the life they had built on Elysium would continue to thrive for generations to come. The journey that had begun with a crash on an alien planet had led them to this, a life of love, of connection, of fulfillment. They had found their home, their family, their purpose. And in the heart of Elysium they had found something even more precious, a legacy that would endure, a life that would continue to grow and evolve, a future filled with love and promise.